everyone, I'm Sarah with Fisher Price Ranch. Please subscribe and hit that notification bell for updates on our next videos. So today I thought I would talk to you about livestock guardian dogs, or also known as LGDs. I definitely would recommend, if you're owning livestock, to have them, especially in a high predator area. I'm not an expert on them. I've only owned livestock dogs for about 2 years, and I've owned 4 altogether. My first one, I'll just kind of give you guys my experiences on kind of trial and error as I went, and then what we have now, and then we'll go outside when the rain stops, and I'll show you guys our setups and how they interact with the livestock. So my first livestock dog, he was a Great Pyrenees Anatolian cross, and I got him at 11 months old. He was my first one. I didn't know anything about him, so I just figured I'd do what everybody else does, throw them right in with the livestock, and they know what they're doing. Well, that's not exactly true. So this dog, he actually had food aggression, and most livestock dogs do to an extent, but this guy, he had really bad food aggression. I would come home with some of my goats with bitten ears, bloody in the face from being bit by the dog. So we had to do a setup, that way the dog could go to an area and have his food, and the goats could not get to that, and that's what we use jump gates for. So we'll go over that when we go outside. Still though, I had a problem because we have neighbors, and some have kids, whatever. Food gets thrown over the fence, giving a treat, and then we still have issues with livestock getting bit. So that was one of my issues with him. Another issue I had with him was, for me, he was too friendly. If I wasn't home, I bet you anybody could have come on the property, and he would have let them on the property and said, oh, just, pet me on your way out with one of my goats. I don't care. So he just wasn't quite working the way I wanted him to. He was otherwise great with the livestock. He was great around the kids. We just had the issue with the food aggression and too much friendliness. So then we ended up getting a puppy. Now this one was a purebred registered Karacachin, and we do still have him. That's Thor. And so Thor, we got at 3 months old. By now, the other dog was, I think, around 15 months or somewhere around there. He was about 1.5 years. And so he had a little bit of experience with our goats and our setup and how things kind of worked around the farm. And so anyway, we got the puppy. We put him directly in with the livestock with this other dog. And after about, I want to say 2 weeks, I could start to see him on the surveillance camera. He started doing the rounds with the older dog. And, they walk the perimeter fence at night. And the problem was that Captain was the Pyrenees mix. He wasn't that close with his livestock. He would actually go in his doghouse and sleep at night or during the day, and he wouldn't be with the livestock, which I didn't really like. Thor, on the other hand, one more thing, Captain also killed chickens. So I could not have him around chickens. Even though he was almost 2, he still would chase chickens and kill them. So with Thor, we did not raise him around chickens, and that was my fault. I should have done that. I should have put him with chickens immediately. So he's getting better, but when he's in his playful mode, he will chase chickens still. So I need to work on that. If we ever get puppies again, we are going to immediately raise them with chickens. So it's best to have them around all your livestock as a puppy and raise them with all those different species of animals. So anyway, as Thor got a little bit older, he was about, I want to say 4.5 months, so we'd have him a month and a half, and he started to hang out with his livestock. And then at night, I would actually see him on the cameras. He would go around and check every single goat. He would actually go around and sniff them to make sure that they were okay. And so that was really neat. He actually started sleeping with the livestock, and that's what you want. You want them to be part of the herd and not just be like a dog where they'll come out if there's something moving around, they'll go out and bark, and then they'll go back in their doghouse. That's it's not a very good livestock dog, because then sometimes they'll miss something or they don't hear something that's sneaking in. So, anyway, so then actually one day Thor actually got me really excited. So what I did was I had fed the dogs, and they have their own area. So I put food in there. Thor come out because Captain was going in first. He's the food aggressive dog. So Thor came out, he went over and he laid down. And then Captain went in and ate his food. When he was done, he came out and he walked over to get a drink of water. Well, when he walked over to get water, Thor kind of looked at him and made sure that he was done. And then he started to walk over to his area to jump in and get his dinner. Well, then Joe, our pack goat, happened to, not on purpose, but he happened to walk by and he just randomly stopped right in front of the jump gate for the dog. And so Thor kind of just sat down and he laid down and he patiently waited for Joe to move. And it was really neat because I'm sitting there filling water, so I got to witness the whole thing. So as soon as Joe moved, Thor then watched Joe walk by, made sure he was done in that area, and then he jumped in and got his dinner. So he's very, very patient with his goats. He has enough food aggression to, when he's actually in front of his food bowl, he will keep the goats out of his food, but not enough that he's going to hurt them. Alright, so then we ended up getting a third dog, and her name was Freya. She was also a registered Karacachin. I really loved how Thor had such natural instinct, and so I think that was my breed that I really liked. So then we got Freya, and she was an adult dog. She was 2 years old, 2.5, something like that. And so we brought her home, and I had driven, did a 6-hour round trip for her. And when I got her home, I couldn't get her out of the car. She was very nervous, and because she didn't know me, she kind of made me a little bit nervous because the way she acted when I would reach to grab her collar to pull her out of the car, it almost seemed like she would bite, but I wasn't sure, so I just kind of gave her her own space. I left my car door open because we were inside the yard with the fence closed, and she came out on her own eventually, and I closed the door. So it took her a few weeks before she would come up to me and actually let me touch her. And then she was amazing with chickens. She was raised with chickens, so we put her in with the chickens because we were having an owl problem where the owls would come in at night and grab a hold of the chickens and eat them. So we put her immediately in with the chickens, and we hadn't lost a chicken ever since. So she amazingly did her job very well. But then we started having babies born, baby goats, and I wanted to get her that experience, see how she did with the baby goats. So I grabbed the leash and I was just going to walk her over to the pen. You guys have kind of seen my yard set up, so you understand the chickens are in the back, the goats are in the front. As soon as I pulled out that leash, she thought I was killing her. She ran away, I couldn't catch her, and then she wouldn't let me near her for weeks. So I don't know why she was so afraid of the leash, but she was. And we owned her for, I'm going to say, 8 months or something like that. And because of the leash issue, how nervous she was, I couldn't stand it. I couldn't even handle my own dog. And it makes it difficult because when I need to move her, I can't. And so we decided to sell her. She was just way too skittish for our setup. And I don't like that. I need to be able to handle my animal. So that was one instance that I did not like of buying an older dog, because it's already set in its ways, and it takes a lot of training to fix that. And I don't have that kind of time. I have a full-time job plus the farm. I don't have time to try and train the scaredness out of this dog. So we did rehome her to another farm, and they actually do dog training, so it was a perfect situation for her. So then Thor's mother ended up coming up for sale, and I immediately wanted her. The only issue they had with her was, well, she hadn't really been raised around livestock. The people only owned horses and I believe cows, and she would actually she was biting people, and they happened to nip some family members, so it was time for her to move on. And I like the fact that she's not all talk. Though, when I do have people come over to look at goats or chickens or whatever, I do have to lock her away because I don't want somebody getting bit. So anyway, I went to go get this dog, and I showed up on the property. I had to go up and knock on the door, and Zara's running loose. You know, she has full reign of the property. And she kind of barked at me, but then she laid down and waited. So no issue. So I walked out and knocked on the door. My friend came out. You know, and she's like, well, you want to see her puppies from her last litter? And I was like, sure, you know, I'll go see them. So we had turned to go walk over to the barn, and Zara came out of nowhere and bit me right in the back of the leg. Luckily, it wasn't enough to draw blood. It was more of a warning bite, but it definitely got my attention, and I did not take my eyes off of her after that. My friend was freaking out. She was like, oh my gosh, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine, I'll take her. You know, I want a dog that's not scared to protect her property. So I have learned since that is one of the things with the Karacachins. They're not people friendly. And once they get established with the family and their livestock, they will protect him with their life. They're a very intense dog, and I love that about them. I just have to be careful when we have visitors. So do keep that in mind. That was one thing I did not like about the Pyrenees, is they're too friendly, and they'll let anybody in the yard. And the Karacachins are completely opposite. So, you know, keep that in mind. So anyway, that's kind of how it's gone with my dogs. Real quick, I guess, when I did bring Zara home, she's amazing with chickens. She's never attacked one. I put her right in with the goat. She seemed a little bit nervous, but it's because she's never been around them before. And they're big, you know, and they got horns, and they can be aggressive. But now, one quick story. We had a friend come over, and we were doing our goat roundup. And so, anyway, I introduced her to Zara, and my friend put her hand out. Zara was nice. She licked her hand, let her pet, you know, Zara let my friend pet her, and so they got along fine. I still locked her up because I knew we were going to be messing with her goats. So I locked her into her pen, like her barn area. We'll show you guys that in a minute. And anyway, we had to shoo the goats into our chute. And so my friend put her arms out to try and, you know, scare the goats. And immediately Zara went on attack mode and, like, wanted to kill her. She was at the fence just, Arr! And so I was very happy that I had locked her away. Even though just moments ago, my friend was able to pet her and Zara was licking her. As soon as you mess with her livestock, that's it. So, if you figure that you have a very dominant livestock dog, you do have to take those precautions when you have strangers around your property. Real quick, the reason I would recommend a livestock guardian dog over anything else is they're a predator animal. They're built for this. It's in their genetics. Now, I have noticed being online and stuff, and people asking me, you know, they want to get a donkey or a llama for a guardian. They're prey animals. I know a friend of mine up in Colorado, she had one of her donkeys killed by a mountain lion. And even though she had livestock dogs, the livestock dogs were only with her goats because you don't think that a horse or a donkey is going to need, because they're so big that they're going to need protection. Well, there you go. So unfortunately, she did lose her donkey. And then, you know, llamas and stuff, they're not built for it. They can't bite back. They can kick, but, you know, if you have a pack of coyotes or wolves or something coming in, they don't stand a chance. Dogs are that's what they're bred for. So I would not recommend a prey animal to protect your livestock. Definitely go with a dog. They're absolutely worth their weight in gold. So now that I've kind of explained a little bit of everything going on with our dogs and kind of my experiences, I'll show you guys our setup, and hopefully it'll help you guys when you do get your own dog. Or if you already have a dog but you don't have a setup that's... I guess I know people that are having issues with their livestock eating the dog food or whatever. So anyway, let's go check it out. Alright, so our setup for our dogs, we have a shelter for each of them. I'll show you Zara's first. We recently fixed hers up. So this is her barn here. The only reason we have it shut off is because we're trying to teach her to use her new jump gate. Now this is not a typical jump gate that we would normally build, but because of the way it's set up, it should work just fine. Well, it does already. So anyway, this is our door, and then we just cut a big square out here. You can see it's not super huge compared to my hand, but it's quite far off the ground. So the goats, when they walk up to it, their chest is probably down here. So goats can't put their head through and their front feet through and jump through like a dog would. So because it's high, up off the ground, it will keep the goats out. So what we did is we put her big bowl of food in here, and she's actually hanging out in there now. So when we had Thor up here, we had to move him. I'll tell you a little bit about that in another video. But anyway, we have a jump gate there as well to go out into the yard, but we've currently closed that off because of certain situations. Not related with the dogs at all, so I'll go over that in another video. But so anyway, you want an area where the dog can go away from the livestock. They have their food, and they can come and go as they please. So currently this is her jump gate. Thor's is a little bit different, which is a traditional jump gate, but because of all the girls out here, and this was really the only setup we could do for Zara, and so we did a square jump gate, but it was tall enough it keeps them out of there. Alright, so Thor's setup is a little bit different. We have a gate that I can get into his pen without going into the goat yard. So we built an add-on onto this shed. Hi Thor, what you doing? And so I can get into here through this gate, and we do the same thing. We've got his food bowl. It's kind of dark in there, but we got his food bowl in there full of food, and he can come and go as he pleases through his jump gate there. I'll go around and show you guys that, but this is kind of his setup. Alright, so Thor is set up from the outside, and I'm sure he'll show you how he uses it. But the traditional triangle, are you going to show us how? But anyway, it kind of worked, except we had some of our younger goats were able to get in there. Because as you could see, it's fairly low to the ground, and so their chest comes up a little bit higher. So the even though this was the right size that was built, that was meant for a livestock guardian, some of our goats could still fit. So we had to improvise, and we put in some boards to make it skinnier, and that kept the boys from getting in because of their horns. So Thor, will you show us how you use it? Go on, go. So he just hops right through that, and it keeps the goats out. Good boy. Yeah, good boy. Alright, well I hope this was helpful for you guys to learn a little bit more about livestock guardian dogs. Unfortunately, it's starting to rain again, so I only had a short window to finish that video. But thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.